Good morning. Kicking off week 12 with Hebrews chapter 12, and it's a good chapter to remind us. As we think back to last Friday, we talked about Hebrews 11, the great chapter of faith, and the key word that jumps out over and over in this chapter is endure or endurance. And the author makes the case early on, the first few verses, that we should endure. One is because we have this great cloud of witnesses that are watching, and I'm not sure what that looks like, but we should endure because they endured. And these witnesses remained faithful to the end. Then in end of verse 1, let us run with endurance the race set before us. So this athletic motif, this race motif, that we need to run our race, and that each of our races are different, and we need to look to Jesus in verses 2 and following, that Jesus endured the cross, and that he is an example and should encourage us to endure. We see a quote that moves from endurance to discipline, and we see a quote from Proverbs 3:11 and 12 in verses 5 and 6. And verse 7, for it is for discipline that you have to endure. And I read that and it makes me wonder what exactly is the discipline that they are having to endure, and we don't know that. But they are going through some hard times but then we see over and over in the rest of that section this sons and father, children, sons, father, and this loving personal relationship, that if our earthly fathers discipline out of love, that our heavenly Father would discipline out of love as well. And then we move to a section of kind of how to do that. Strive for peace with everyone in verse 14. Verse 15, don't let this root of bitterness cause problems. And, it's a verse I've seen lived out negatively many times, where something has happened and people become bitter. And this root of bitterness kind of grabs hold and causes problems, and talks about sexual immorality and being unholy like Esau. If you think about sexual immorality, it is a very temporary gain. It's not even a gain. It's a very temporary thing. And Esau, in his impulsiveness, giving up his birthright for a meal. And again, this concept that you need to persevere, you need to endure, that sometimes things are hard and you need to get through it. And then it goes on to says in verse 18, for you have not come, in verse 22, but you have come. So the author is really comparing Moses receiving the law and our coming to the heavenly city, the heavenly Jerusalem, and to Jesus, who is our mediator. So again, encouraging people that, hey, we have a heavenly city, and concludes this chapter with talking about an unshakable kingdom that will be forever. So the author again just stressing to the Hebrews, or to the Israelites, that they need to endure. They need to stay in the faith. They need to not return to Judaism. That we now have a heavenly city with Christ as our mediator, and that it will be an unshakable kingdom, and to stay faithful. So that's my prayer for each one of us today, that we would remain faithful and endure, that we would not turn to temporary pleasures, but to just to endure the race set before each one of us. knowing that this race for each one of us is different, but we have the same goal at the end, that keep our eyes on Jesus, look to the heavenly city, think about this eternal, unshakable kingdom. So we'll finish up Hebrews tomorrow with chapter 13. Again, I hope you have a great day. If you have any questions or comments, put them in the comment section, and anything to share. I'd love to hear what God's teaching you. Take care. God bless.